It's my pleasure to introduce someone that needs no introduction, Kirrily.
Thanks, Phil.
And Kirrily is going to introduce someone even more famous, Dr. Ron. And we're going to have a good talk about New Zealand hops. We've had this morning's conversation about what's going on in the US hop market with breeding, with thiols, with surplus hops, with beer styles, pretty wide-ranging. And I think we've got a Southern Hemisphere take on things now, and specifically some exciting news on the Superdelic. So over to you guys.
All right, we need your mic, Phil.
Here it is.
I'm going to jump up here. Before we start, come on, Dr. Ron, up you come. Yes, it's you, up you come. Today we are on the lands of the Boonwurrung people, and I wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. So there we go. Dr. Ron, hello. Are you on? Just talk, and I'm sure these guys back there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there we go.
Kia ora, everybody.
So I'm literally just here to ask this amazing man, the Lord of the Lupulin, the hero of hops, Dr. Ron Beatson, who has spent 40 plus years in hop development, hop research, and headed up the trial program at Plant and Food Research Development in New Zealand, and are an amazing partner to NZ Hops. So all of the hops that we certainly are showcasing today and more are down to this man. So Superdelic is our latest, greatest, very exciting release. But before we talk about that, can you just give us a little... So we both talk a lot. We've got the wind up. We know we're tight on time. But can you just give us a little bit of background to you, please, Dr. Ron?
Yeah, well, thanks very much, Kirrily. Well, my background, as Kirrily says, I'm a scientist, really. That's what I've done for a vocation. And I've been working in plant science for 50 years, and I've worked at the same research centre near Motueka in the top end of the South Island, which is quite close to that picture over there. I've worked mainly in kiwi fruit as well as hops, and that's I don't want to go on about my science career or anything too much, but I've done quite a lot of work in those crops and released quite a few cultivars of hops. We've tried to specialise in our research program. It's been going for 7 decades, so we've tried to specialise in something that's a bit different than what the Americans were talking about before up here on the screen earlier this morning. Just like in Australia here, we're trying to do things a bit differently. So it's that's the nub of it. I've got a great team. I retired from my current job, my previous job as a scientist. I retired in the end of 2021, and I had a few months off playing golf and going fishing and annoying the hell out of everybody that I could find to annoy. And then NZ Hops came calling, and they wanted me to do some technical work with them. So here I am. So I work part-time for NZ Hops as a sort of a semi-retirement project.
I was going to say, I think you've probably, never been busier for retirement, right? You're just at some point going, when am I going to retire? But it's amazing to have Dr. Ron, working with NZ Hops. And I think that relationship between NZ Hops and Plant and Food Research Development really gives NZ Hops that ground of being the originators for so many of these incredible hop varieties. So Nelson Sauvon, Rawaka, Motueka, Nectaron, Dr. Ron, that's where it comes from. So this is the man that, as I said, they're your babies. Should we talk a little bit about this incredible hop, Superdelic, the psychedelic, the chameleon, the lady of many layers, let's call her. Yeah. How did it all come about? She's a complex little lady, isn't she?
Yeah.
I've just given her a lady. I don't know. Do hops have a gender?
Yes, well, they really are females.
Well, actually, of course they are. That's true.
The female plants. So we'll call them ladies anyway. So
Yes.
this Superdelic was...
It's not all about you, Ron.
So Superdelic was crossed in 2012, to give you an idea, and was released 11 years later, just released last week. So it's a hop that when we're doing our crossing program, we do a crossing program every year in our science program, and we do about 50 crosses a year, and we grow about 2,000 seedlings. And Superdelic was one that came out of a cross between some European ancestry material with our own male plants, which we've developed here in not here, in New Zealand. And so it was a happy sort of joining of the two empires, if you like, from Europe and also from New Zealand. The New Zealand material has got a very strong ancestry with North America. Of course, hops are not from New Zealand originally, so they're the original centre of diversity for hops is in Central Asia, and it's sort of split into going out to the European end, into Germany and other places, and also into North America. And a lot of our material comes from the North American background.
So one thing, obviously we're talking about Superdelic, but as a kind of philosophy, it's the approach to new hops is quite unique in terms of the triploid. You can explain that, scientist.
Yep,
Can you talk about that in terms of why the approach from plant and food research is so unique?
Yeah, well, you know, like Australians and New Zealanders, we like to do things a little bit different than other parts of the world. So, you know, we've got to find our little niche, if you like, and our hop program is no different. We don't want to be producing the same types of hops as America or Germany. You know, they're the big players, obviously. So we've got to find a niche in the world of hops. And so one of the things we've done is we've used what they call the triploid technique, which is most plants have got 2 sets of chromosomes, and the triploids have got 3 sets. And by having 3 sets, it makes them seedless. And that's really the main reason for the triploid thing. Also, the triploids grow exceedingly well in our environment too, so they produce good yields, and they're slightly later, and they have good hybrid vigour, I guess you could call it. And so they're well suited to our climate, and it's the climate in the Nelson area. We're at the top of the South Island is quite mild. It's a temperate oceanic climate, and so it's you don't get many days up around. You wouldn't get many days as hot as here today. And I'm regretting wearing long pants, by the way. And so we get mild temperatures basically, and the hops seem to suit it. So March is the harvest time, and our hop, the triploids have, as I said, it's unique material. Arguably we've got the best collection of what they call polyploids, which is we've altered the chromosome numbers of the plants to suit our breeding program, and so we've done this, and we've got arguably the best collection in the world. So we're very proud of our what we call a tetraploid collection, which is to create a triploid, you've actually got to cross a diploid with a tetraploid, so you come up with a triploid. So
Got all that?
Two by 4.
There's going to be a test,
and you get 3. So that's what, and obviously with 3 sets of chromosomes, you know, you can't divide 3, so that's the reason why they're seedless. Is that a layman's?
Everyone's nodding, which is a good.
I'm happy to talk about. I could
to
talk about it for quite a few more hours
after lunch, and probably quite a few beers. That's good. So the agronomics is obviously so important as well. And you talked about the climate, and we are hearing now, the summer's coming later. Those harvest windows are really important as well for farms to be able to manage actually just the timing of when they can get the hops off the vines. So Superdelic as a hop is a relatively late harvest hop, so that suits the growers?
Yeah, correct. Yes, it's Superdelic will be harvested in New Zealand about 20th to 25th of next month, March. So it's developing really nicely, and I think it's going to have good yields, which will please the growers, obviously. It's a very good machine harvesting hop, which again is the growers love it. And of course, the main reason it was selected because it had wonderful flavours and they were different. So we don't want to be, as I said before, we don't want to be in the same space as other countries in terms of our hop breeding. We just want to be something, we're doing our own thing, if you like, and essentially it's we produce about 1% of the world's crop, so we're not going to threaten the Americans or the Germans, and so we can find really good markets with high-quality hops. The other thing that is really good about New Zealand, and something that I noticed they were talking a lot, the Americans were talking about, was pest and diseases. Well, we don't really have pest and diseases in New Zealand. The only pest we have is a two-spotted mite, and that's controlled with biological means. We don't have, we just don't spray. So that's a really good thing for our hops, I think, hop production. And so it's a string to our bow. You know, you've got the unique cultivars, triploids. You've got Southern Hemisphere production off-season from Northern Hemisphere, and you've got the lack of pest and diseases. So I think you can appreciate that if you're brewing beers with no pesticide sprays and things on it, it's going to be a lot better than dry hopping with ones that have got pesticides, had pesticide sprays on them. So that's my take on it anyway. I don't want to downtread the importance of America and Germany, because we owe a lot to those countries. And a lot of our hops are well suited to be combined with those hops from those countries too. So we still talk to each other, and
we're one big happy hop family, aren't we?
One big happy hop family. That's right.
So let's have a chat about some of those unique characteristics of Superdelic, because we've obviously had, I feel like a lot of you have come and tried the single hop Sawmill hazy IPA that we've got. We do have another beer. Has that gone around? Where's it gone? I don't know what's happened to that, but we do.
It's in cans, isn't it?
Oh, there we go. Oh, there, the signal. Okay, so we're just going to pass down. So Hop Nation. So.
Oh, wow.
Over the last probably 6 months, we've had a program where some breweries have been trialling these hops. So in the US, in New Zealand, and in Australia, and obviously what was NZH 102 is now Superdelic, and it actually did really well in the trials. But the interesting feedback, and it's exactly what we've had today, is that this hop everyone has a different way of describing it. And, you know, when I said a complex lady and, you know, lots of layers and unique characteristics. So the things that were really coming through in terms of those dominant, you know, flavour characteristics was red fruit, berry, which is, you know, is unusual. We don't see that a lot. Candy, fairy floss, sherbety. But then you have, you know, big pineapple notes, big citrus notes, big tropical notes. And then, you know, today we've had, it's dank, it's got, you know, diesel, it's got umami in it. So it literally can kind of appear and show itself in a myriad of ways, which is, you know, really exciting and really fun for beer and, you know, the future of beer. I was talking to Dr. Ron about the oil breakdown, and, you know, I was saying, so, you know, what are the big, where's the uniqueness coming from? Where are all these strange characteristics coming from? And you said...
I said, yes, it's not from the main. It's not from the main terpene compounds. Like, you've got 4 main terpene compounds in hops. You know, right across the globe, basically, there's 4 main ones. And the main flavours, I believe, that are coming through in Superdelic are not amongst those 4. They're amongst some of the minor compounds that you see in the hop profile or the oil profile.
Which you said were the unknowns. Like,
yeah, well,
and
it
that's
is.
the fun, right?
In such small quantities, some of these things, that they are unknown. And it's we've actually got an Otago University PhD student who's doing some work for us on trying to characterise some of these unknown flavours in the hops. So in Superdelic in particular. So it's and it's also. Some of them are brought more to the fore depending on the maturity date they're harvested, and so there's a bit of terroir going on there in terms of harvest. So 5 minutes ago.
We've got the 5-minute warning.
One thing you touched on the Kirrily.
Thank you.
One thing that I think one of the key things about our program is that we've got this thing called Brack Brewing, which is we've got breweries from here, Australia, and the United States, and also New Zealand. There's about 60 all up, and they were picked because they like New Zealand hops, and one of the reasons anyway. But also, what we're doing is it's a good pathway to market. Again, I keep referring back to the American talks. They didn't talk about it, but that pathway to market between me as a plant breeder developing a new selection and getting it out into commerce, it's actually quite difficult. And so we need brewers' feedback, and so that's the important bit. So, that's the whole idea of the Brack Brewing, is to put it out there, and we've got lots of good feedback, as you can see by the different descriptions on Superdelic over there, on the wall there, it's on that decal thing there. So it's just sort of one of those things where I think the Brack Brewing program has really put highlighted the way that we can publish or release cultivars from going forward.
Yeah, it's a great final step in the process, isn't it?
Just,
to have a significant number of breweries using the hop in a variety of ways as well, and getting that feedback in terms of is this a hop that you want to take to that next level of commercialising it? So this year, first commercial harvest, about 20 tonnes. Will be harvested. I think we're getting about 5 in Australia. So is that
Use
right?
it well.
Ish?
Use it well, everybody.
Get in there quick. And then obviously that will build over the years as well. But given we've only got a few more minutes, has anyone got any questions for this incredible man? Otherwise, he will be over there. Okay.
I'm happy to talk over
I'm coming
a
down.
beer.
Hang on. All right. I'm used to doing this. All right, here we go.
Thanks, Kirrily. Thanks, Dr. Ron. With the New Zealand hops, a lot of the parents in the past were like SARS and Hallertau, the classic for Rewaka and that. What are the parentage for Superdelic?
Its mother is a German cultivar called Hersbrucker Pure, and the reason why we chose it was when we've been doing crosses over the many years, the last 20 or so years, we've noted that Hersbrucker Pure seems to throw a lot of these unknown compounds, which are giving the differences in the progeny, if you like. So, and also, I think one of the keys to it is to make sure that we do good selection work with our male plants too. Because us males are very, very special, and we like to be pampered a bit. So
it's a great description.
So it's a bit like sire testing in the dairy industry. You've got a super bull, if you like, and you test its daughters. So it's a very similar process in hops. So it's a way of picking out our really good males. But the female was the Hersbrucker Pure, which is a sort of a cultivar that was developed in the 1980s in Germany, and it doesn't grow super well in New Zealand, but its progeny certainly do, and that's the hallmark of it. And as a cross with males that have been bred in New Zealand, so we put a lot of emphasis on the males. It's something that people don't talk about much in hop breeding. We're important as males.
We're very inclusive in the hop world, aren't we? Are we on to us, Sam? Have we got time for one more question? Yep. All right. Coming down. All righty. As I said, Dr. Ron will be here for the rest of the day too.
I'm talking over a beer.
So I might phrase it in the wrong way, but with a lot of the New Zealand hops, traditionally have had this somewhat characteristic of cattiness or kind of blackcurrant bramble sort of characteristic within the hops across a number of different lines in different ways. Do you feel that's more a choice or as a result of the selection of the parents or within the growing conditions within where they're grown?
Most likely genetics. Historically, a lot of the genetics for the North American genetics we've used in our program have come from wild or semi-wild material. So I think that's a key. That's one of the keys to our program, actually, is the wild North American genetics. I don't know whether you people have done much, whether you're into Botany 101 or anything like that, but I mean, hops can be found right across the prairie lands in the States, right across Canada as well, right across to the Maritimes. And it's a lot of that material, I believe, is disappearing pretty fast. But I think it's very important for the world collection. Whenever I go to conferences, I always hammer on the Americans about going out and doing more collection work from there. So I think to answer your question about cattiness, it's probably, it's genetics basically. You will get differences with terroir, the terroir effect, but terroir is a pretty loose term, isn't it? What's the definition? In grapes, I can understand it a bit better, but in hops, when you've got a plant that's used in a derived way, if you like, there's lots of areas where you can change it, like out in the field, fertilising, time of harvest, way you machine harvest it, the bed depth you're using in the kilns, and then what happens to it afterwards as well. So it's quite complex.
I think it's certainly something that is nice to start talking and thinking about, though, in terms of that concept of terroir in beer that wine has owned for far too long. All right, I know we're done. So a huge thank you to Dr. Ron Beatson, the Lord of the Lupulin, hero of hops. I thought of those at about 3 o'clock this morning, by the way.
And thanks so much to Phil and his team here too,
yes,
by the way. Bintani,
what a great day.
They've done a fantastic job, and great day, and I've really enjoyed coming over here to be part of this. It's fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, amazing.